If you have been following this video series and built your own budget and expense tracking system already, then many congratulations. The system is built, but we have to use it effectively for our purpose, otherwise it is of no use. I have talked in detail throughout the previous videos on how to build and use the budget and expense tracking system. In this video, I shall briefly cover how to use the system end to end for our personal budget and expense tracking. I shall also talk about the changes that is needed whenever the year ends and we start a new year. So let's get into Notion and talk about it. Let's create a new page and let's call it personal finance. There are mainly three things that we need to do. Create budget for the year, track expenses regularly, changes after each year. For the budget creation, we just need to create the records in yearly budget database, and this is a one-time activity in a year. We created all these records using the templates, and these are the templates that we created based on the expense type mentioned here in this Google Sheet. You just need to identify the expense items and the corresponding budgeted amount with the split of monthly, quarterly and yearly portion. Also the surveyable amount in case you want to capture that in your budget and expense tracking system. And again, the Google Sheet is there for your reference in case you need any guidance. Once you identify your expense items, you need to create the corresponding templates in the yearly budget database, and after that you need to create the yearly budget database records using those templates. I have covered this in detail in part 3 of this video series, so if you want you can also watch that video after watching this one. And that's all for task number 1. For expense tracking, let me create a database table view of monthly budget database. Since I created some records in the monthly budget database while creating the previous videos, and I also scheduled the templates, so you can see the records from different months, and these are the records for the month of July. So if we just open any of this, we can see it got created on 1st of July. But since it's July and we want to just track expenses for the current month, so let me put a filter to show just the July month records. To add an expense, we just need to open the monthly record. If you remember, we set up the default template for all the database table view of expense tracker database inside the monthly budget database templates. So whenever we'll click on this new, Notion will pick up the correct template. Since this is fresh item monthly record, so if we click on this, it will create the fresh item expense record. We just need to enter the amount, and that's all. That is how we can add expense to the budget and expense tracking system. Let's create one for maybe medical. So let's click on new, and this is medical expense record. Maybe the amount is 20. We can create one for grocery as well, new, then 24, and finally let us create one for daughter sports fees. Let's click on new, and this will pick up the correct template and create the expense record for daughter's sports fees, and let's put the amount of 30, and that's all. You can see all the new records out here. That's how we can add the expense into our system. Isn't it very easy? We actually did all the hard work, so it has to be very easy. How about linking those expenses with monthly budget database and yearly budget database? Notion will take care of it because we did all the required setup while creating the templates, so we don't have to do anything. And that's all about task number 2. So you now have a system in place to take care of your personal budget and expense tracking, so please use it. When the year ends, we need to make some changes to the system, but luckily that's very minimal. We obviously need to create new budget for the new year. We have all the templates. We just need to update the budget amount there, and these are the places where we have to make the changes: monthly budget portion, yearly budget portion and quarterly budget portion. And we also have to update the year accordingly, and after that we need to create the yearly budget database records. If you remember, in part 3 of the video series I mentioned that even if we create the records only once in yearly budget database, we should always create the record using the templates and never create the record directly inside inside the yearly budget database, and I hope you can see the benefit of using the templates now. Next, we need to point all the monthly database templates to the corresponding records of newly created yearly budget database records, and this is the place where we have to make the changes. Currently, this yearly budget database property is pointing to this yearly budget database record, but a new fresh item record would be created for the next year. Then this template should point to that new record instead of this one, and we can make the changes here. So we need to first remove this, and then we can click and we need to point that to the new record. So for now, we will still point to the existing record. That's all we need whenever a new year starts. However, if you want to add new expense items or if you want to remove any existing expense items, then you have some additional work to do. And if you have been following this video series, then I am confident that you know what to do and how to do it. That's all I wanted to cover in this video. But before I close, let me share a bonus item that you can use if you have got more than 1 month of budget and expense tracking data in your system. We can create graphs and charts in Notion, but if we are using the free Notion plan, then we can only create one chart, not more than that. And we obviously need some data in the system to create the graph and chart. In the monthly budget database, we got some good amount of data. So let's see if we can create a graph out of it. To create a graph, we need a database view. And if we scroll down, these are all the graph options, as you can see. Vertical bar chart, then horizontal bar chart, line chart, and there is some number chart as well. Let's try this one, line chart. Then we want to create this using monthly budget database. On the x-axis, we want to show the month. Then on the y-axis, we want to show the actual till date sum. It's not that pretty because we just got some random data into our database. And month number 6 is basically June, and number 7 is July. And these are the July month records. If you click on this, you can see these are the July records, and we added some grocery, daughter sports fee, medical, and fresh items. Similarly, these are all records that we added in June while creating the videos, and these are all obviously random numbers. But I hope you got the concept. If you have the proper data, then you can create a graph out of that. Maybe I'll put a screenshot of my expense and budget tracking system chart, and that may give you some idea how it looks like. This is how we can use the system for our personal budget and expense tracking. I hope you found this video useful. If so, please like and subscribe because that helps a lot. Share with others. I shall see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.